Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined that trans-temporal adventuress Iris Wildthyme as she travels the vortex and arrive at episode number 352. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Blah.
I'm
Always
getting
blah.
over.
You're bringing this podcast down every week. Every time you come here, you're in a bad mood.
I'm not in a bad
Or
mood.
grumpy or tired or exhausted or sick or...
Yeah. I can't deny it. I am.
I'm getting over a head cold.
Are you feeling better?
I am feeling better.
Good.
A couple nights of decent sleep helped a lot.
We are late this week because of Keith.
Not entirely. Only partially. Did you guys do anything fun this week? A bit longer of a week. That means Glenn has a really long list of horror
I do have
movies.
a long list of horror movies because
So we're going to save him for last.
I'm still going. Halfway there.
I actually knocked a handful of them out. Horror movies in quotation marks. Has anybody seen Taking Lives?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil it. It's this kind of standard blah, 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 the thing with Angelina Jolie. And it just kind of went on into this thing. And I just kind of sat there going, he's obviously the killer. This is obviously the thing. Oh, this is going to be one of those. So then it got to the end. And I got angry. I got really angry. And I thought to myself, I said it out loud. I said, the only way they can possibly redeem this bonkers ending is if this happened. And then that happened. And I got up and went, I'm done. Not that made it better, but it was just like where they went with it in that last 15 minutes was like, are you kidding me? This is stupid. Don't watch that one. Don't recommend it. I can't remember what else I watched, but there were varying degrees of pretty all right. The Covenant was one. That was goofy, but it was fun.
We snuck out and saw Spider-Man Homecoming, finally.
You hadn't seen that yet?
No, well, it came out like the week after Gemma was born.
That came out on Blu-ray today.
Yeah, it finally made it to the cheap theater.
And?
Well, I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. I was kind of reserving any judgment on it, but not getting my hopes too high. But it really delivered on everything I kind of hoped it would be. Yeah, and Sarah really liked it too. She thought it was a lot of fun. And then we finished Stranger Things, and that show just astounds me. It's just so good. Even on a second viewing, it's just as good the first time.
Tell us what you did this week, Glenn. By the numbers.
I trundled on. No, actually not trundled. I powered on at sometimes my 31 Days of Horror. So last Monday on the 9th, my 9th film was a possession film, and it's The Haunting in Connecticut. And it's probably one of the best films I've seen on this list so far. It is so creepy and scary. My next one was a slasher. So I did Friday the 13th Part 2. Part of the reason I did that is because I'm trying to do either A, films I haven't seen, or B, films I haven't seen in so long that I can't necessarily remember. And the Friday the 13th is an odd series for me because I've seen all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. I've seen all of the Halloweens. And I know I have, and I can remember them, but I've seen them several times. Friday the 13th was one of those ones that I was excited to do the watch along with Caitlin because I have holes missing in that. Whether it's I can't remember what happened to the film or I just never saw it. Because I know there are a few of the Friday the 13th series that I didn't see. And this is one of them that I don't think I've seen. Now, I remembered the end of it, but I think I've seen that in clip shows or other things that they've done. So I remembered the ending of it, but didn't remember the ending until it happened. So it wasn't like it spoiled it for me. I went, oh yeah, this is, So, which, I thought it was slightly better than the first one, but...
Did they get the killer? Is Jason really dead?
Spoilers. Well, since there's like 9 more films, no. The 11th was psychological horror, which I did, Gerald's Game, which just dropped on Netflix this month.
Oh, Gerald's Game. Okay.
Yeah, and it's really good, really good. Then for the 12th, for a vampire film, I found a film on Hoopla called Metamorphosis that I had never seen from 2007, starring Christopher Lambert. And I thought, all right, I might enjoy this.
Probably not.
No. Not even Christopher Lambert could save that film. It was horrible. So bad. However, the acting was moderately decent. There's a couple of parts, including Christopher Lambert, who acted like they couldn't act their way out of a bag. And I know his acting is the weakest part of the Highlander, where the storytelling's so good that you don't
overlook
notice it.
Yeah.
But then when you put him in a bad film, you really do notice the poor acting. For the 13th, oddly enough, the 13th falls on a Friday this year, and I couldn't do a Friday the 13th film because that would have been a Stephen King film, which I have never seen the movie Christine. So I thought, okay, it's time. Because I've seen probably most of the Stephen King films, so that one was going to be really tough. And then I remembered that I hadn't seen Christine. Although I think I've caught a piece of it on TV because there was, again, maybe I saw it in a clip show too. Again, there was a big chunk in the middle that I was, oh yeah, I've totally seen this part, but none of the rest of it I had. So it's a good movie. It's an okay 80s horror film. Then for the 14th, for Occult and Witchcraft, I did Black Sunday, which I think is also called The Mask of Satan in the U.S. I think
So
that's
this
how
is
it was
not the
released
one
in
with the
US.
blimp in the Super Bowl.
That is not the one with the blimp in the Super Bowl. No. This is
Because you missed the target if that was the one you watched.
no. It came out in 1960. It's a black and white film, and I think it's Italian. And so the version that I saw was dubbed, which is fine with me. And it's good. It's quite an enjoyable film. It's really it's got these really stark black and white quality, kind of almost a noir look, but really stark black and white coloring, which I really, really appreciated. And then on on the 15th was the category is phobia. And I just couldn't think. I mean, I can't bring myself to watch. Even though I'm better with spiders now, I couldn't bring myself to watch Arachnophobia, just knowing that I was going to deal with that. Or eight-legged freaks or anything like that. One. Yeah. So I went in search and found a film from 2013 called Phobia, and I was like, okay, this will do.
Was Christophe Lambert in it?
No. However,
would he have improved the movie?
He would have improved this film because I was longing to go back and watch Metamorphosis after I watched this stinker. This was bad. This was very amateur quality, and I have the utmost respect for amateur films and filmmakers. You've got to start somewhere. But this I don't think was meant to be an amateur film. But the acting is
was it from Asylum?
Bad. Oh my gosh. No, I don't remember what the company was that did it. It wasn't Asylum though. Oh my gosh, this is bad. It had an interesting premise, but it goes way off the rails about 2/3 of the way through. So I don't even recommend that one. And then to top off terrible films, last night was a trauma film.
Oh, you know that's going to be bad going in.
I did, and so
you really didn't plan that out very well there, did you?
I went with horror. Well, here's the thing: when you watch something like Metamorphosis and you watch something like Phobia, and they take themselves seriously, ended up being a bad film. When you watch a film that doesn't take itself seriously, it's much more palatable. Because I think if I had just stumbled across Terra Firma, I definitely would have gone, oh, no way. And probably would have watched all the way through, but I ended up watching it all the way through. I won't recommend that to anybody because I don't think you can really recommend trauma films unless you have a specific person that you know would appreciate a trauma film.
Myself 10 years ago probably would have.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if I would.
No, so this one, and of course, there's lots of sex and violence in it. It's super graphic. Of course, they always do.
Well, now it's on the list.
It's super gore. It's super gore, but it's so fake gore that it's just you look at it and you go, I can't even be grossed out. Actually,
you laugh at the gore.
The gore
so
didn't bother me. It's the body excrements that always bothered me when I watched that film, and I was like, okay, I can turn away from that. I can sit there and watch the head being crushed by the car, but anytime anybody vomited, I had to, and there's a lot of vomiting in it. A lot of vomiting in it.
So you are halfway.
Halfway.
What is tomorrow's?
Today, I haven't watched today's. Today's is A Blood in the Title, and I'll do Blood of Dracula from 1957, which I've never seen. I was kind of surprised. It's not a Universal film.
Oh,
okay.
Is it a Hammer?
It's not a Hammer either. Yeah.
Would have been before Hammer, wouldn't it?
No, Hammer was doing films in the 50s.
It
was before any of the Dracula films.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a movie called Blood of Dracula that's not Universal or Hammer?
No.
Wow.
There's Blood of Dracula. Whether I kind of thought about doing for my vampire film, I kind of thought about doing Dracula versus Frankenstein because it's an Italian film. Mm-hmm. But I remembered the plot of that one because I saw that years and years and years ago on a late night run when I was probably in high school or college. But I remember most of the movie, which makes me wonder if I've seen it again since then. Mm-hmm. So I blocked that one out. And nope, I'm not going to do that one because, like I say, I have to either not remember anything or very little about a film or not have seen it at all. And for the most part, I've done films I haven't seen at all.
That's awesome.
Yep. So I got a whole mess. I'll put this out there now because by the time we get to the next recording, we won't quite be there yet, but I will be close. Actually, no, we will probably be right there. So I'm going to put that out there this week. On the 24th is recommended by a friend. So I want your guys' input. I want listener input. If you can put it feedback, or if you can go to my Facebook page or tweet me at Vortex Glenn on Twitter. I want recommendations. There's a potential I could get a lot of recommendations. So what I'm going to do is try to find. First of all, it has to be a film I haven't seen, which just throw them out there and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That'll weed them down a little bit. Also, if I get a hit on like 2 of the same, I might go ahead and just do that because that kind of ends up being a vote winner type thing.
Yeah.
Or if I just the title strikes me, I might go, okay, I'll do that one. And it also will come down to availability because I've only rented 2 of these films so far this entire month. Everything else has been available either streaming on services that I have, or available through the library, or available through Hoopla. So
That's kind of awesome.
yeah,
That is really
so I haven't paid hardly anything at all. That's it. That's all I did. I haven't caught up on any of my shows, so I don't know where I'm at on those.
Let's move on to some news. Our first bit of news is the BBC Worldwide released a teaser for their animated version of Shada. So we got a little taste of what the animation is going to be like. And it will.
Was it even a taste? I mean, we barely put our tongue on that.
No, not a sampling then. I don't know, what would you call it?
I don't know.
It was like an ice cream scoop. They give you
It was the taste spoon.
The
It was the little
ice
tiny spoon
the
that
little
they
tiny
give
sti-
you at
ice cream
Baskin-Robbins,
taste spoon.
except for you only got to try one flavor.
Yeah. I couldn't honestly tell you. Having seen pieces of the Ian Levine animated one, I honestly couldn't tell you based on this if it's going to look any better than that one or not. They appear to have been drawn pictures that were moving. That's about the extent of what I can tell you about the animation in this. So I'm sure it'll look great.
It looked pretty close to the colorized version of like other Who we've gotten animated.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'll look great.
I mean, it's not quite as high of quality, I think, as Power of the Daleks, at least as far as the backgrounds and everything, but at least as good as The Invasion, I think, from what I can tell.
I don't know, The Invasion's a high bar.
Well, okay, maybe not that good, but it's not the Uncanny Valley of Reign of Terror.
I don't think anything will ever be the Uncanny Valley of Reign of Terror.
But we did get some more details that it will be available as a digital download Friday the 24th of November, and at least in the UK on DVD and Blu-ray Monday the 4th of December.
Okay, so the digital date, is that a worldwide
That
US included
I'm not
date,
sure.
or is that just a
it
British
doesn't
date?
specify.
Okay, it's probably just a British date then, because it seems like we're always behind.
But it is going to be
We weren't-
released on Steelbook.
We weren't for we were for Power, but we weren't for Web of Fear and
Oh, that's true. Those were
Yeah.
day and day, weren't they?
and what makes me think that we'll get it that day digitally is because it's dropping on the anniversary or near the anniversary. So
There's also going to be a special screening at the BFI South Bank, London. So
they do that always too.
Yeah. It's about as frequent as a Fathom events.
It's getting there.
And then there's a list of bonus features available also. So you can go check all that out.
No, you can't.
Well, you can check out the list of bonus features.
There you go.
Is this?
Did you see the Steelbook, Sean?
I did see the Steelbook, and I'm tempted.
Did you see the Steelbook for Series 10?
No.
That is gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Yeah. It's even tempting me.
me see
I
if I
still
can
haven't
pull it
bought. There's a Steelbook through Zavi for Spearhead, and it's like, ooh, no, because then it would look weird because it would be that one that's out of place.
That's
But-
all right. You've already got one out of
Well,
place
but
right
then
now.
Zavi's
Oh, I
like-
did print you off a different sleeve, though, for Power.
awesome.
So.
What was the other one? Oh, Power had a Steelbook too. The Power Steelbooks were really cool.
Yeah.
It's sharp, but
And this is the Series 10 Steelbook's in line with all the other Steelbooks they've been doing for the new series. The same art style.
Mm-hmm.
So at least it'd be consistent if you got the Steelbooks.
For all of them.
Yeah.
and it's that comic book. Well, what I think of as
It
the
might be that same
Well,
artist.
it looks
Yeah,
like
it
the
is, I
artist
think,
that
yeah.
did the first books for each of the Doctors, that one
Yeah.
variant
Yeah.
cover. That
Yeah.
yeah, not comic art, but the when I
Right.
think the comic book cover,
the cover art that
Yeah.
came out on the
The
releases.
launch cover art.
the really cool, pretty ones, the painted ones. So
In other news,
Let's go back to Shada. I'm sorry, I got distracted. So do we know, is this going to be a reissue of the existing Shada set, now including an animated version, or is this a completely different DVD release that's just...
I believe it's a completely different DVD
Oy
release.
vey. Okay.
I don't know if some of the bonus features might be the same, but I don't think you're going to have the... It's not going to have 30 Years in the TARDIS. That's not going to be there.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
I don't think it's going to have the... I haven't seen anywhere that says it's going to have the VHS version of it. Because that's what the last version was, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And then I don't think it's going to have anywhere where a link to the Flash animation either. Because that's not actually on the disc. That's like a CD-ROM thing.
I just want the Ultimate Shada. I just want one.
Which is odd because this is being billed as the Ultimate Shot. It's the Ultimate Edition.
I want one 10-disc box set that has all of Shada. Why is this so difficult? But
we'll just change out the case and put all the other so it's a multi-disc set, and there you go.
I'll have to have
just
Glenn
combine the two.
I'll have to have Glenn print me a cover.
Other news: there's some rumors about Series 11 that some are kind of duh. Others are I wonder. So this is according to the Mirror. So take that at what it's worth.
Fake news.
I thought we had a contract or a pact that we were never going to report on anything the Mirror said ever.
I think there's some substance to some of this.
Okay, go ahead.
That's what we said last time, and then it failed to be right, and we went, no, we're never doing it again.
Well, we're,
duped again.
We're reaching for some new
I think
series stuff to talk about.
Well, we're in the age of Trump, so we report on fake news now.
This just in from the Mirror. Omni rumor proven true.
Woody Allen playing Einstein. I remember that one. That was from the Mirror.
If you're going to swing for the fences.
The rumor is that Series 11 will run for 10 weeks rather than the usual 12 and have full hour episodes instead of 45-minute episodes. I can see that happening considering Chibnall has been doing 8-episode seasons of Broadchurch. It doesn't seem too much of a stretch for him.
I'm going to put that rumor in the plausible category.
Oh, and how about some rumors that are pretty much going to be in the definite category? New TARDIS console, new Sonic, and a new TARDIS shell. Still a police box.
The new TARDIS shell surprises me.
Well, it doesn't
because
surprise me
since
too much.
Eccleston, the exterior's been the same with the exception of the St. John logo and the slightly darker color.
And that's what.
But when you say different shell, that's
what they mean.
That sounds like they're going to make some
that's
aesthetic
clickbait.
Changes to it, not repaint.
I think technically
they're going to make it. They're going to just tweak it. They're going to do what they've always done with the TARDIS when there's been a new Doctor or whenever they make changes to the TARDIS. Is it's going to be the same. They're just going to be minor.
It didn't change between Eccleston and Tennant.
There was a big change. Others not as big of a change. So I mean, it could be they're going to remove that St. John sticker. And that could be the change.
I think it did change.
That's a dumb thing to report on.
But between Tennant and Smith, though, I don't think it was just the St. John sticker because I think the windows were different.
It got bigger and
it got a little
it
taller.
It did change between Tennant and Smith.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But not
St.
just
John
the sticker.
Well, the TARDIS grew.
The
a
dimensions
bit.
of it. Yeah.
It grew a bit.
Well, maybe they're going to go back to in a
slightly smaller.
In a true reverence to old school Who fans, we're going to go slightly smaller and fill it with concrete. Because apparently the old one had a concrete base, so anytime they went on location, they had to have a forklift move the thing in and put it down. And it's like, really? I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll stick with fiberglass. But did you know it's fiberglass?
I think I did.
There's a peek behind the curtain for you. Fiberglass.
I think most people knew that.
But all the other things are kind of like.
You didn't know that.
I did. I knew it was fiberglass.
Really?
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't really care what it's made of, as long as it looks good.
As long as it looks like it's made of wood.
Does that make the TARDIS the Corvette?
Well, the TARDIS isn't made of wood, though, so it doesn't really have to make.
But weren't police boxes?
Police boxes were, yeah.
So
well, some of them were concrete.
Some of them had concrete in the bottom. Actually, I think that they were concrete reinforced too, so that people couldn't break out of them.
Yeah,
well, that would make sense. But
I mean, the whole thing wasn't made of concrete, but
right.
They were,
no, but I mean, there was like rebar and stuff in there. Otherwise, you could just rock really hard and get loose. It wouldn't be a very effective police box.
Well, why do you think they stopped using them?
They used them for like
Criminals
11
kept
years.
escaping.
Because the British are a polite people, and they went, "Oh, we're not using these." I'm going to put those rumors in the confirmed.
I think these are ones that the Mirror didn't have to go for a far stretch out of.
You can't put them in a confirmed. Not yet.
It's a confirmed rumor.
Highly likely.
Highly likely. I'll give you that.
They didn't have to reach for those.
Once we start putting mirror,
It was low hanging fruit.
it was low.
once we start putting mirror articles in the confirmed category, then we've given them some sort of credibility, and we're not doing that.
Oh, that's true. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But what about when they get it right?
What if they're right?
They got Matt Smith right. We credited him for that, but that was a
And then
long
they got
time
Jenna
ago.
Coleman right too.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Oh, it was Coleman. Yeah, it was Jenna Coleman.
I don't know. I'd have to take your word on the Matt Smith thing. I wasn't around then.
Yeah, I think it was Coleman is what I'm thinking of.
You weren't, were you?
No.
Matt was already a thing. God,
For a whole year.
Christmas specials when
Yeah.
we started. Yeah, the first Christmas special. Matt's first Christmas.
such a newbie.
Anyways,
Does that seem weird? We've been celebrating the new Who for how long?
10 years,
10
11
years.
years now.
10 years plus? 10 seasons, yeah. 10 years.
12
maybe
now.
12 years.
10 years plus, and yet you've only been around for
Half that?
half of that. Okay, sorry. I'm getting old.
In other news, the folks over at Candy Jar announced that the 5th series of Lethbridge Stewart novels will be released in limited editions, available exclusively via their website. The first book is now available for pre-order, The New Unusual, and each one will have a limited 400 copies.
Ooh.
So get it while you can.
Was anybody concerned that it's limited edition?
Well, I'm assuming there'll be a standard edition later.
So you'll think there'll be a standard edition that'll release Street
Or
Fighter.
at least the PDF version. So they'll still be available.
Wow, they'll be available to us no matter what.
Well, I mean,
we
to
can
us,
review
yes.
copies, but
they have been releasing them all on Kindle.
oh, that's true. Yeah,
So they'll be available, I think. They might maybe just phasing out the
print version.
print version. I don't know.
Print is dead.
I would
It's
assume
a much more economical.
I would
thing
assume
to
with
do.
4 series out there already that eventually they would have a standard edition that they'll put out. So
Yeah.
What if it was a steelbook? I better not say that too loud, Andy. Andy might get me on that one.
So if you're keeping up with the series and you want to get your copy, make sure you get to Candy Jar and get that pre-ordered. I think I saw you can pre-order a bundle as well,
I believe so.
and then you get them as they come out. So get them sent to you as they come out.
Right.
We got to finish up this series. We're getting there. We're getting there.
It is on the schedule.
We are getting there.
And our last bit of news is a bit of bittersweet. This weekend is Time Eddy, and they have announced that it will be its last year, going out as a trilogy.
I'm going to put that in busted. That myth is busted.
Myth is busted.
Yeah, it's a rumor. It's going to go in the busted category. I'm not even going to put
Is
it.
the Mirror reporting that the?
No, I'm just going to. I'm not even going to tell.
Lisa and Kieran are reporting
It's
this,
fake
Sean.
news. They're not going to take Time Eddy away from me. No.
Well, hopefully you all have your.
So
tickets,
you're
and
putting
if
this.
not,
You're putting this over in the category with the Omni rumor. Huh?
Yeah.
I got it.
No.
All right. No. In all seriousness,
that's the wrong side of the board.
in all seriousness, the organizers, Lisa and Kieran, have announced that this will be their last year doing Time Eddy. So that being said, it's a big one this year. Make sure you get your tickets and get out there if you're in the Wichita area or if you're nearby, within driving distance, or even if you're not within driving
not too
distance.
late.
It is a terrific convention. We always have a lot of fun. We've been there. We're veterans now. We've been there for both the previous years, which this will be the third year that we'll go. And,
Time Eddy,
we've
the
been
trilogy.
there. We've been there since the beginning, and so be sure to get your tickets and go. Go.
Yes.
Time's running out. Maybe this episode probably go up by the time we roll into town, but
And you can see us.
Yeah.
So that's more than enough reason for you to
they
go.
can see us at Time Eddy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Do you have your ticket yet?
Or your hotel room?
I have my hotel room. I don't know if I have my ticket yet. No, I have my ticket.
That's it for news.
All those rumors you want to report on as news, huh? Okay.
Hey, there was only like 2 rumors.
What was the other rumor?
Well, it was one news item, and they were all rumors.
Our entire news this week was rumors?
No, one news
You're
item.
not allowed to pick the news items anymore,
Hey,
Keith.
I got out of news, man. What do you want from me?
That's why, because good journalists are gotten out of news and they can't identify the real thing from the fake.
I work for the government now.
So you're advocating for the fake news now.
Okay, since you brought it up, you have to cut this out. But
I'm not now.
I use Adobe at work for my editing suite. Adobe does everything, and they showed us a thing now that is going to be part of Creative Cloud, and it's called Kovo. But it's going to be released with Adobe Cloud either later this year or first quarter next. And so the guy comes out and he says, so, we've got the audio clip there, and then he pushes a button and it goes, and it puts the waveform of the audio up and then prints it in text. Hit the microphone, prints the text of that audio clip below. And then he went and deleted a word on the text part, and it clipped it from the audio. And then he started rearranging words, and the audio rearranged it.
Yeah.
And then he typed in new words, and the guy said it.
Wow.
Now, the editor in me is like, oh, this is the coolest, greatest thing ever. The news person in me is like, oh my God. Because now I can make it. And apparently all you need is like, a long enough clip of somebody talking. Like if you have 20 minutes of it, you can make them say whatever you wanted. Because you just type in a new script and it goes, okay. Apparently there's an added feature that, let's say that the inflection just wasn't quite right. You can record your voice saying it. I meant to say it this way. And then it'll go back into the pool of that 20 minutes of dialogue that you have, and it'll say the new dialogue, whatever you want it to, in the inflection you give it. It's like, are you kidding me? I just, like I said, the editor in me is really excited because it means it'll make my job so much easier because I don't have to rely on the talent to come and green screen anything anymore. I'll just get 20 minutes of them doing their stuff, and then I'll type a new script, and it'll chew it out, and it'll be done. I don't even have to rely. They don't even have to show up to work anymore. I can just do everything without them. It'll be great. I love not dealing with people. But the other half of it is like,
Yeah,
I don't know about this.
Yeah, I'd read about that online.
Oh, man. Sorry. I just... You want to talk fake news? You can just... Between that and the fake Twitter accounts, I don't know how you're going to keep up with it all. It's just...
So, should we move on to feedback?
Let's. First up in feedback is Chris.
Chris writes, getting together. Hi, guys. It was great getting to see you all at TopCon again this year. Unfortunately, I have to agree, though, that this year's event was definitely somewhat of a letdown in regard to the new venue, particularly for its lack of a separate room for the panels. On a positive note, the parking situation was certainly much better this year, but sadly that was about the only thing that was better. Overall, I think the Ramada was by far a much more comfortable and inviting place to host this event. Anyway, despite my general disappointment with this year's TopCon, it was still really nice to get to see and visit with some of the people, including yourselves, that I've had the pleasure of getting to know through this event over the past few years. Which brings me to my next topic. Since you guys kind of brought this up last week, I thought I should probably respond. I think what you meant to write there, Chris, was since we threw you under the bus last week. Yeah, I still think it would be awesome to do some kind of get-together for those of us who live here in the Topeka area. As someone who doesn't have a whole lot of friends who are into the nerdier kinds of things that I enjoy, like Doctor Who and other science fiction, it would be great to have the chance to meet and visit with other local people who are. I can't tell how many times over the past few years that I've been listening to your podcast where I wished I could have jumped into the middle of the conversation and been a part of it. So I think it would be an absolute blast to get a group of us together where we could all sit down and have a roundtable discussion in much the same way that you guys do on your show. As to the practical issues of how to organize such a get-together, I think probably the first step should be to ask for a virtual show of hands to see how many people would be potentially interested in participating. So I'll say if you're listening, live in the Topeka area, and would be interested in doing something like this, send the guys a feedback and let them know. Also, it would be helpful if you'd let them know which days and or times would work best for you. If there's enough interest, I'd certainly be more than happy to help get something organized. Just let me know. Okay, guess that's all for now. Talk to you guys again soon. Your number one fan in Auburn, Kansas. Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
And it was good to see you too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great idea to get a show of hands. Up next in feedback, Rachel. Rachel writes, "Greetings and salutations. Hello, Vortex gang. I just wanted to drop a line and say hello. I'm still listening regularly. I've just been very busy. So very busy."
You've been exceptionally busy, Rachel.
Yes, she has. Anyways, I wanted to say that I'm disappointed to hear that Time Eddy will be no more after this year's convention. It is one I've had on my list since year one and was hoping to attend eventually. But apparently that won't be possible anymore. Frowny face. I understand where the con organizers are coming from, at least a bit. Running a convention of any size is a lot of work and takes a big commitment to those involved. Hopefully someone else will step up to the plate and be able to put together a Doctor Who-centric con for us Midwesterners. In happier news, I bear greetings from Caitlin Blackwood. She was a special guest at Who North America today, and I got to chat with her both on the mic and off. At dinner, we got to talking about other events and conventions she's been to, where around the U.S. she's been.
And she told you how awful we treated her both times. Oh, sorry.
She mentioned Kansas City, and I brought up her appearance at Planet Comic-Con, where Karen crashed her panel. I told her that the moderators for her panel were friends of mine, and she remembered you.
Yay!
So I told her that I would pass along her hello.
Yeah.
She thought it was pretty cool that our podcasts are brother-sister. P.S. My interview with Caitlin will be on this week's Five-ish Fangirls, so stay tuned to the feeds. Hashtag shameless self-promotion. That's all I have for now. Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Be
Thanks,
sure to go
Rachel.
over there and listen to that interview this week on the Five-ish Fangirls.
Which I think it's already out. So
It is, yeah. It dropped today, I think. No, yesterday, I think. No, today, I think. Anyway, it's out. By the time you hear this, it's out.
Yes.
She says that she remembered you. She didn't say fondly.
It's true.
She didn't say she had a pleasant experience. She just said she remembered you. That's kind of ominous now.
She
that
probably
I read
remembers
it.
us because we've interviewed her twice now. So.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Three
that was it.
times.
Well,
Well, you and
twice,
I, three
twice
times.
in the same setting. I mean, 2 conventions.
Yeah.
When you remember an event like that, you just remember
kinda
that as one
blurs it all
time.
together,
You don't
yeah.
think about it as, I talked to them
3,
3
Glenn.
times. Yeah.
3.
Cool. Well, now should we move on to our reviews?
Let's.
Do you have synopses?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm going in release order for the reference.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's also in doctor order, so you know.
Okay, then you're all right.
That's the order we listened to them then.
Yeah, that's why I hesitated, because I was like, okay.
Excelis dawns. That terrible old reprobates and transdimensional adventuress Iris Wildthyme has gone and locked herself up in a nunnery on the savage world of Arcteris. Here she is discovered by the Doctor and the reasonably brutal warlord Gravorn. Together with a peculiar nun they pick up en route, they must travel the forests and swamps of this ghastly world in Iris's double-decker bus in order to tussle to the death with a horde of flesh-eating zombies for a mysterious and holy relic of unfathomable value and questionable pedigree. But what is the Mother Superior's part in all of this?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure what the Mother Superior's part is? I'm not sure I am either, because we don't know, because we haven't heard the whole series.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not what you're talking about.
I enjoyed
Is
this.
that also why you're not sure how you feel
I'm
about
not
Is
sure
that
how I
what
feel
you
about
mean?
it.
You don't know how you feel
I don't know
about
how I
it?
feel about it. The characters get a huge bump. This was a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, it was.
The plot just kind of left me. That synopsis really kind of drums it up far more than it's worth, because I don't recall the zombies actually eating any flesh. So,
I think it's just implied.
or kind of being zombies for that matter.
Well, they referred to them frequently as undead.
Yeah.
That makes them zombies.
But this is Doctor Who. I want a little more substance than, oh, okay. In many ways, once again, I feel, Keith, I've done you a disservice, and myself for that matter. I'm only, up until this weekend, was only peripherally familiar with Iris Wildthyme. I knew it was a thing. That was I knew she was a character. I knew that she had adventures with the Doctor, and apparently very similar adventures with the Doctor. And I knew she was from the books. That was pretty much it. It wasn't even until we scheduled these purposely that I found out that it was Katy Manning playing Iris. And since we're going to go see Katy Manning this weekend, I was like, man, we should probably ask her some Iris Wildthyme questions. We better get that on the schedule. All of that was quite enjoyable, but unlike the previous stuff that Big Finish has done that has been lifted or borrowed, or in the case of Benny very much felt like we kind of got dropped in the middle of her story, but that was okay because this didn't necessarily have anything to do with that. Pretty much everything that happened with Iris, I kind of felt like I feel like I'm missing a huge chunk of backstory with her.
Well, if anything, and that's just because it's any backstory for the novels, because this is her first audio appearance.
This is her first audio appearance,
To be fair, the thing with Iris you have to understand is Iris is an anomaly within the Doctor Who world. Even in prose, she's not necessarily a linear character. She's not even necessarily the same incarnation that we get with Katy Manning's version of her. There's been many attempts to put down a comprehensive timeline, but there's a lot of issues because they also recognize that a lot of them contradict with each other. It's been postulated that Iris is a time lady, but maybe she's not. That she's actually an amalgamation that was created based on the I can't remember, faction paradox on Gallifrey. That she was sort of created by a paradoxical event. And when I say faction paradox, there's actually a house called Paradox, the House of Paradox, I think it is, on Gallifrey. I don't know that much about it other than the research I've done about it. But anyway,
isn't that
where
a big
they were
Finish line too?
I think eventually they do some of the faction paradox stuff, but it was actually a book series first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so the problem with Iris is you can't go into Iris and go, there is a linear story here, and that any backstory is anything, because this version is solely created by Katy Manning as this type of version, because she's been what's described as a Barbarella / Jane Fonda Iris Wildthyme, which is another incarnation of her. But nobody's ever seen her actually transform or reincarnate into the next thing. So we're okay going into this with Katy's version because, again, there's such this weird dichotomy of you can't really pinpoint who this woman is or what, because a lot of the prose talks about how she's had nearly similar adventures to the Doctor, and that she might even be from an alternate universe, and she's a version of the Doctor in that universe, because there's a lot of things that she tends to remember that are exactly the same thing as the Doctor went through. She has run into the Doctor several times. She traveled with the Eighth Doctor. Well, she met and hang out with the Eighth Doctor in the Eighth Doctor adventures. There's been a lot of short stories surrounding Iris. There was actually a version of Iris that was a lesbian novelist on Earth, I believe it was. So we're okay. You don't have to feel bad about jumping in here, because even if you jumped in at the beginning, you would get a version of Iris that would be unrecognizable to you later. Unlike the Doctor, who still continues to retain certain qualities and memories and some sort of continuity, with the exception of it's like throwing in, it's like trying to throw in the stage Doctor and the movie Doctor, the Peter Cushing Doctor, and maybe even comic relief Doctor, Rowan Atkinson Doctor, and try to throw those into the mix and try to make that continuity work. You can't really do that, and so that's Iris is an amalgamation of that style of history and back lore. So you don't feel bad about throwing into Katy Manning, because you could jump into Katy Manning's version of Iris and she'll allude back to things that I think are nuggets for readers that have joined Iris on other adventures in other incarnations, but it doesn't make there's absolutely no confusion whatsoever, because they'll be just as confused by something later that Katy would do that they didn't get. Well, is she alluding to this event, or is this something we haven't seen that's off page or off screen, or
Right.
off audio. So you shouldn't feel bad about that at all.
Well, that part.
There's always a caveat.
What should I feel bad about? Keith?
You know, all the Watcher stuff when he's talking about.
But you knew that.
Yeah, but still, that's still just another jab at you of haven't got to that yet. It's not trucking, but it's pretty close.
If it makes you feel any better, 98% of that was made up for the story.
All right, so now I've just witnessed
believe it.
something. I'm the one that's always getting after you for doing this to him, and now he's doing it, which means it's time to put them on the schedule.
Next year.
I heard him talking about the Watcher and what the Watcher was, and I just started laughing. Because even though I knew what it was just like, oh, there's another instance.
There's another reference.
I'm going to know absolutely everything from that trilogy by the time I get to it.
Oh yeah, you'll just go. Oh okay, I knew that happened. I knew that was going to happen.
I'm building you up for it by letting you know how seminal a moment it is in Doctor Who.
It won't be now, though, is the problem. He has completely deflated the moment by trying to set it up as a seminal moment. But anyway,
the moment has been prepared.
We can argue about that another day.
That's totally the name of that episode. The moment was prepared for. Ad nauseum. No, I just... I don't mind being chucked in the deep end and expected to swim. That doesn't bother me. But for some reason, I feel like I wanted a little more structured Iris. I went into it knowing that she was going to be just off the rails bonkers. I knew that. I wasn't prepared for Katy Manning's performance or delivery or accent.
You almost can't tell it's Katy Manning.
You really can't. I really had to listen and went, okay, yeah, she's in there. Why are you going to do it are you going to do it that way through the whole thing? That was honestly my first thought. Again, not that she's bad. She's not. She's a hoot. She's a lot of fun to listen to. But
I really like the fact that she sounds so different from Katy Manning.
Oh, Katy Manning's the best thing about about this story.
Well,
she is phenomenal. I love the way she
wasn't recognizable as Gravehorn either.
I knew that was where he was.
The problem with Anthony Stewart Head is, he pulled off a completely different character than I've ever heard him do before. But the character is so one-dimensional that I didn't care for the character.
That's a writing issue.
Well, I'm not, but then his performance doesn't carry it for me because the character is so one-dimensional that there's nothing he could have done other than make it so different than anything he's done before, which I applaud him for that. But I didn't like the character. I was like, this character is
I
useless.
can't speak for the writing, but I think the performance is done in such a way because, spoilers, Gravehorn carries through the series.
Yeah.
I think to show his growth.
That's not a spoiler. He's on the cover of practically every one.
It's true.
When you get an actor like Anthony Stewart Head, you put him on a cover of every one of your CDs.
But I think it's to show his growth more than anything as a character throughout the series. So
we'll see. But right now, he's very one note. He is very, very one note.
He's very one note. But I gotta side with Keith. I think the performances across the board were great. It's just I didn't necessarily care about the goings on.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Katy Manning was fantastic, and I absolutely love her portrayal of Iris. I think that I could listen to her do Iris Wildthyme from here to the end of dawn. I did, but I know she is wonderful. She's the best thing about this. Her performance is great. I think the writing of the character is great. I have to ask her this weekend how much of it she put into that character, or how much of it was actually in the script that she just drew out from the character.
Her chemistry with the Fifth Doctor,
it just was amazing. Fantastic. I loved her. I love Iris. I can listen to Iris forever now. In fact, I want a whole another full Iris Wildthyme series with more companions and more. The Doctor doesn't even have to be there. I want Iris.
There is.
Okay. Little bit. That's the problem. Is I want a big old long main range series. I think there's only about a dozen audios right now. And I just don't think it's a dozen. It's like a half a dozen. I think there's 6 audios. I thought
it was longer than that.
I don't think so. Maybe.
I'm gonna IMDb it.
better off TARDIS wikiing it.
You're gonna wiki it.
I am.
Yeah. Now looks like from this timeline, which I have the attempted timeline pulled up there. There's about 8 audios that she's done.
So when is that going to be an infographic, Glenn?
I could do Katy, or I could do Katie's version of Iris. Going from there, it might be a little difficult. Anyway,
It looked more like a Venn diagram.
this is a middling story at best. There's nothing really going on. Nothing happens. It's just really kind of setting up. It's the first chapter in this series of Excelis audios. I didn't think the Doctor was all too spectacular. Peter Davison does his, he does the Doctor. He doesn't. His performance isn't poor, but there's nothing to write home about. It's no Caves of Adjuvant. But he's just kind of there. I thought that he was a bit more tolerant of Greyvorn than I expected the Fifth Doctor to be with him, but I was kind of okay with that because all of the rest of them, I was being forced to be tolerant with the story. So the zombies, I think I never heard them use the word zombie in it. They did say undead, but I didn't ever come across like they were zombies. They seemed to be, they talked for one thing, or some of them did anyway. I didn't even picture zombie. I kind of pictured dullets, undead dullets, just kind of, okay. It just, the story was just kind of there, and it did whet my appetite to go on. It's not like I was like, well, I'm not even going to deal with this series. This wasn't great. Like I say, it's middling at best, and I want to find out what happens. And I'm excited to the fact that each of the different stories is a different Doctor, with the exception of the very last story, which I think is just Benny, right?
It's just Benny in the last one.
Benny and Iris, isn't
Yeah,
it?
Iris, I think, is back for that one.
Iris comes back.
But Benny, Iris, and obviously Greyborn.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where they take this series, but to me, it's just kind of a middle of the road. It's an okay off the start for me.
Yeah, I kind of would agree. It's the interactions between the characters that made the story enjoyable, and then the fact that the thing they're after is a purse that Iris bought.
That's a nice little nugget.
I really appreciated that aspect of it.
That was a bit Douglas Adamsy there.
It was very.
It was frustrating.
Her relic is an accessory.
So we're all going to go on this epic quest, and we're going to take the bus. Okay, and we all pile into her TARDIS and drive. And the whole way down the mountain, I kept thinking to myself, just go. Just go. Give me a reason that you can't go.
Kind of a
just
delayed
go.
Well, they did give us a reason.
Not until they got stuck.
Well, that they did, and
then we got the reason for it.
But I think that actually I
wasn't
appreciated.
it also a slightly delayed
that
revelation that it was her TARDIS. Did we know it was her TARDIS?
No, because I think the Doctor says something about it being the TARDIS, being her TARDIS when they get in. We'll get into your TARDIS.
I don't remember that.
But
they kept referring to the bus afterwards, but I think that was to simplify it a little bit so that the one nun and Greyborn was
her carriage.
Is it Greybor or Greymore?
Greyvorn.
Greyvorn.
But just that we finally get to that point, because the whole time I'm going, you got a TARDIS. Just you don't. Why are you keys marinating this? Just go. You can get to the end of the quest. And then when they got stuck, and he says, "Well, we'll just do a shift. We'll do a dimensional shift," and then Iris reads him the riot act. That made it worthwhile, because I was frustrated all the way up to that point. And then when Iris says, "You think if I could dematerialize that I wouldn't have just gone to the center of the jungle to begin with?"
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was totally worth the fact that they were driving.
That made it worthwhile.
I agree.
Yeah. Because I had to get to that moment. I was like, okay, all right, I'll give you that one. I really enjoyed Anthony Stewart Head. I really enjoyed Greyvorn. Just the idea that he was this. Again, this is another one of those. I feel like it suffers from the storytelling, because the fact that he kept interluding with.
Yeah, it was a weird narrative way. This. Yeah, that was bizarre.
And it's like, well, I know he makes it now, so there's nothing you can do to that character that's going to make me think that Greyvorn's in any danger. But
see, the interludes I didn't bat an eye at, because I've been listening to some other random Big Finish stuff, and some stuff they do has narration, other stuff they don't. So it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah,
sometimes
you're right that they do that, and sometimes it does work. And in fact, the companion chronicles are all that.
Well, even the Third Doctor Adventures, they do that.
Well,
too,
yeah, and I haven't listened to those yet.
Was a bit for me,
but I think that the Third Doctor Adventures are finding that meld between. I mean, it makes sense. They're making that meld between.
Behind that makes sense too.
But the thing that this one really comes off as a main range type story, and then to drop just Greyvorn talking doing the narrative in between every once in a while.
And really, it's going to come down to see how it continues throughout the rest of the series.
Well, hopefully they'll maintain that now, because as annoying as it was to begin with, I feel like it has to be consistent. So.
Exactly, and how it resolves itself will kind of depend on how I feel about the narration.
And because he's in all four of them, and obviously the main character with the fate of Excelis, okay, maybe there's a larger purpose behind this that I'm just not seeing from the start of it. So I'm willing to give it that it's the first chapter of a much longer tale that we've got to get through, and I'm with you. I'm excited to see where we go from here, because I don't necessarily.
Know if I'm excited, but I'm
intrigued.
Well, I'm intrigued. Yeah, there you go. That's the word.
We're off to a fairly inauspicious start. That's a tough word. Inauspicious.
What about the Wormery, Keith?
The Wormery. There's one place in creation where the truth really can be found at the bottom of a glass. Bianca's, a very special and very exclusive little club. The doctor, careworn and seeking a quiet distraction, gains admission, but his rest and relaxation is soon shattered by the wobbly arrival of louche, trans-temporal adventuress Iris Wildthyme. She claims she's on a secret mission of vital importance, the success of which hinges on her getting paralytic. When she's drunk, she can hear the whispering voices in her head. The doctor soon learns that Bianca's airs and graces cover not just one malevolent power lurking in the shadows, but several, and a wriggling, writhing presence has designs on the clientele, just as Bianca herself has designs on the doctor. After so many centuries, the weary Time Lord is dragged by the heels into the darkest of undiscovered countries. Love.
Really?
That's the official publisher summary.
Okay. Kind of the same thing, quite honestly.
The story has some really cool ideas behind it, and it's got, at the same time, it has too many ideas in it.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're hitting the nail on the head.
The idea that Bianca is a future incarnation, the fact that they basically steal the Valiard's plan and kind of turn it on its head is very clever. I like that a lot. Even the worm stuff is kind of like, oh, okay, that's a bit much, but I guess you need something else to go with the Bianca stuff. But then the shadow aspect of it with what's-his-face was just way too much. That's the point where I was like, okay, there's just so much going on. And when you eventually do tie it all together, it's so unsatisfyingly tied together that it's like, really? That's it?
Actually, I sort of think I would have preferred them going with the shadow part of it.
That would be
because the worms were almost a little too on point for the fact that we were discussing all these various wormholes.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a little too on point that they were actually worms. And I thought...
in bottles of tequila.
Yeah. It became... And I know what they were going for, and I appreciated the conceptual implements of this. It just... I'm with you. There were too many things that they were trying to do with this. Also, I felt that Katy Manning's the character was maybe a notch lower in this one for me than she was in the first one.
Well, she was scaled back, and she got a little bit more meaty stuff to work with.
Well, she's the same, and that's just it. I think this is a heavier or darker story, especially when she finds out that Bianca is a future incarnation.
But her reaction to the doctor at some point.
She seems to get kind of sidelined. Well, I did love the fact that this is the doctor that she's not really all that attracted to.
And then by the end of it, warms to him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and is actually quite upset when he doesn't really kind of, when it's, especially when he's being kind of lured into Bianca. Under her influence, and then she starts to sort of get jealous. It's like, okay, wait a minute, you can't have it both ways.
And then the fact that she's actually jealous of herself.
Yeah, exactly. Conceptually, it was a very cool idea. Just there was way too many pieces to the puzzle, or to the plot. I really liked the idea that Bianca had taken the TARDIS and created this nexus point, basically, that connected it all. Just a second, sorry. Okay, make sure we're still going here. to all points, and the realization of when they leave and wait, this isn't in Berlin. That just happens to be one of the gateway points. I thought, okay, that's really cool. I kind of like the two guys that had gotten in trouble for whatever technobabble sciencey thing that they had done.
Alias and Bayless.
Alias and Bayless. That the doctor was quite he what am I looking for? He was enamored by them.
He was almost starstruck.
He was starstruck by them, but also had that moment of stepping back and going, well, they're criminals essentially, which I thought, okay, that was kind of striking a nice balance there. So I like those characters. But overall there just was too much going on here. I liked the story better than Excelis Dawn because they were trying to do something and they were actually going somewhere. There was more of a plot. There is a lot more intrigue. There are some action moments that you don't get as much of in Excelis Dawn, but then they stepped back on the Iris Wildthyme character for me, so I was like, okay, well now we've split the difference here and flipped the other way. So
that pretty much sums it up. It's so crammed full that they can't make up their mind which story they want to tell. Because the stuff with Iris, you pointed out, Keith, that she gets a lot more meaty stuff to do. Unfortunately, she is required to be drunk and obnoxious through most of the story.
Well, I like that.
Now,
that's kind of how she was in Excelis a little bit.
I kind of like the drunk and obnoxious.
Drunk Iris is fun in small doses. Drunk Iris is, and because she's humorous, but then when drunk humorous Iris is suddenly having to deal with the weighty meat of the stuff, and she's got to flip on that dime.
She goes to the morose drunk Iris.
Morose, when she becomes morose.
And then it's not so much fun. There are moments, you mentioned some of the action bits, where the doctor's involved in some fisticuffs, and there's the piano player in the background, and it's almost a pantomime. It's almost gotten to that point where we're doing this farcical Western bar routine, that they've gotten to that point. But then we'll immediately follow that up with, here's some super serious, the world's going to end, and it's going to take the entire universe with it, and the shadows here. And it's like, okay, the Valeyard stuff was great, and the indignancy of the Doctor, because it could only be this Doctor. None of the rest of them could have even. It had to be Baker to go, you're stealing this too, just to fly off the handle with that. That was really great. But I feel like by the time you worked through everything else, I'll be honest, when the cliffhanger, the first one, ended where they're outside the club and they see the stars, I kind of immediately began to suspect that Bianca's was a TARDIS in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that Iris kept going, it's my booze.
Yeah.
I was like, this is her TARDIS.
They seemed to telegraph that very early on.
Now, I didn't see the Valeyard part.
I
missed that
a little
altogether.
early on.
Well, and one of the things,
kind of when the Doctor started falling for Bianca, I started to pick up maybe this is actually Iris.
One of the things that keyed me in is I had done a little research on Iris's background, even back when we talked about throwing her in as a archive a year ago or 2 years ago, I think it was. But I knew that she also had an incarnation that she looked and in fact portrayed sometimes Shirley Bassey, and was a singer and an African American. And so Bianca, when she first comes, I had forgot what the character's name, what her incarnation's name was, which it was Brenda Subi, was her incarnation's name when she was the Shirley Bassey lookalike. But when she came on, I thought, is this that? Is this Bianca? Is this what they were referring to here? But then if this is a future incarnation, everything I read about that incarnation was a past incarnation. So I thought, okay, but I know that there's some weird inconsistencies in timelines as well. But then as it kept drawing out, I kind of thought, no, this can't be. And then I had to go to TARDIS Wiki and go, oh no, that wasn't even that was. So they borrowed from that concept that had been presented in some prose, but yeah, it telegraphed it too early to me. And I kind of felt, I'm glad you say that, because I kind of felt, maybe I felt that way because the wiki inadvertently tipped me off. But now that you're saying that, I think maybe I would have arrived at that conclusion early on anyway.
Like I said, I didn't come up with the Valeyard, but I did come up with it being Iris's TARDIS. And then I was a little frustrated with that because it was like, well, this feels very much like Excelis, that it was her handbag that was causing all this trouble. Well, it's her ship that's causing all this. It's just Iris keeps stumbling onto herself, but then you mentioned, then the Doctor falls for Bianca. I was like, okay, that could have been a really cool thing to explore. That could have been a really great thread to play with. That, again, the Sixth Doctor of all people is the one that suddenly starts to develop feelings with. But they rushed into it so quickly that it was like, okay, well, it's a hypnosis or a mind control thing or like that. And then even that wasn't really handled all that well. So the fact that that's in the synopsis, the Doctor's going to fall. No, that's just kind of one more
the
thing.
Doctor gets drunk.
It's one more thing you crammed in there that didn't really need to be in there. So,
well, and even to some extent, the idea that there are these worms and they're trying to prevent these. They decided they don't want to change, and these shadows are possible future versions of themselves. Is a neat idea. It just doesn't get the time it deserves.
That's just it. Again, if you could have just focused on that
just
plot
that,
line.
yeah.
I think the other thing that they throw in there for some sort of like maybe kind of dark brevity is the fact that the gateway to Bianca's from Earth is 1938 Berlin. So we're talking about right in the rise of the Nazi party.
Aside from Cabaret, there is no reason for that time period.
I mean, I think the idea was to give those soldiers that come in and raid and then get special treatment a little bit of more of a
see, and I never got the impression listening to it that they were actually like German soldiers.
Yeah, because
I know they were supposed
the Doctor makes a comment about that, almost berating them not forward berating them to their face, but making a comment that kind of has a veiled inference that you're on the wrong side of history type thing. So that's what kind of,
and especially at the end when everything kind of snaps back and he says, well, they go back, well, more's the pity, or something to that effect, that he's referencing the what's going to happen. And I know
they were supposed to be, they just wrote them to almost seem space versions of them, like they were futuristic versions of these soldiers. That's the impression I got while listening.
I didn't get
that. I think they were going for Casablanca.
Yeah,
I think that's
the vibe. That's what I get. That was the type of. That was the type of German soldiers I got the impression of.
Which again, if you're going to steal from the best, but man, if you're going to do Casablanca and Doctor Who, you got to do it better than this one.
that being said, I didn't hate this story. I thought it was good. It had a lot of potential. I didn't
much potential.
I can't come in here and say, well, this was horrible and this was terrible. I can't really pick it apart for other than the reasons that we've all talked to and sort of all agreed on.
And going back to Katy Manning once again, she's phenomenal. She really is great as Iris. The again kind of weird narration with the woman, I can't remember her name, but the woman who's giving Ashcroft the tapes.
Oh right, Mickey. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. I did really appreciate the twist at the end. I did not see that coming. I have not gotten spoiled on that, and I was glad that I hadn't.
I suspect when she kept saying Mr. Ashcroft and he didn't talk, it was like, okay, this is going to be. And then I thought, oh, maybe it's Gravehorn, because I started to cross-pollinate.
I did the same thing, although I didn't think it was Gravehorn, but I had in my head, I wonder if this is connected to Elsa's, to the last story, and then having to keep distance myself, going, no, this is main range. Excelis was a special set, so.
They just both happen to feature Iris, so that's probably my fault for scheduling them together like that. But.
No, I'm glad you did, because I think that it was a nice dose for what we needed it to be able to go get a dose of Katy Manning playing a different character than Joe Grant within the Doctor universe, and be able to go, at least with a little bit in our arsenal of questions to say, let's talk a little bit about Iris Wildthyme. So I've got a lot of things now. We can ask her about that. Well, not a lot, but we've got a few more things, at least in our line of questioning of talking to Katy about. So
it'd be really fun to see her show up on Doctor Who proper as Iris.
Oh yeah.
I think
that might be a little too far out there. By that I mean. You almost have to be a really diehard fan in order to really get much of Iris. I mean, I think
and this is the only appearance in the main range she has.
Yeah, at all. So, yeah, that would be intriguing. Maybe she'll show up in the comics. That would be cool. But would it be this version, or would Titan decide? Well, we'll create our own version, because I mean that's what happens is people come along and say, "Well, we'll create our own version of Iris," and then this happens, right?
Maybe they do all of them. Actually, if Titan, if you're listening, that's the story I want.
That should be next year's big multi-doctor special.
When she references the 5 doctors that she went to the death zone on Gallifrey and run into all her old companions and all her old selves, that's the story.
That's what you want to see. Yeah.
I want to see that in a comic. But give it enough of a different twist that it's not the 5 doctors, but just give it those trappings. I'd be pleased as punch with that.
All right, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, Time Eddy. That's kind of the big overriding piece of news on the schedule this week. We will, of course, be there. The con runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down in Wichita. And if you can, please show up and support them in the final year of their event, which I still think is fake news, but we'll see. Our Friday Night Who offering this week is An Unearthly Child, because William Russell, thank you. I keep wanting to call him Ian. I mean, it's Ian Chesterton, but William Russell's going to be there. And so we'll be doing that. Now, also with any con weekend, keep in mind, we may or may not actually be able to partake in the Friday Night Who because of our con obligations. So you may be on your own reconnaissance for that. But we hope to have all kinds of good stuff for that. And then the following week is the 27th is a Friday, so it's right before Halloween. So our Halloween offering for Friday Night Who is State of Decay, because Tom Baker and Vampires just screams Halloween to me. And then the following week, we return to the Lethbridge verse. Did we decide on what it's actually called? I ask this every time. The LS verse? What are we calling it?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I thought it was Lethbridge Stewart verse.
The Lethbridge Stewart verse.
How about the Brig verse?
The Brig. Ooh, I kind of like Brig verse. Brig verse. We return to the Brig verse from Candy Jar. So we're going to do The Two Brigadiers by Jonathan. That is not his name, is it? Macho? I think I have a mistype on my schedule.
Jonathan Macho.
Jonathan Macho? Okay. There's definitely a weird spacing issue there I have to correct. So we'll be doing that. We'll be doing The Lethbridge Stewart Daughters of Earth by Sarah Garland-Wigan and The Cruel Oil by Harry Draper?
Yes.
Mad Men. On the podcast the following. So if you're reading along with us, you've got 2 weeks to knock those out. And I think most of our listeners... less than at this point. I think most of our listeners probably already have those knocked out because we had to take a break for the new series stuff. And so we're a little behind on our Lethbridge or our Brigverse action. But that is that. And of course, the new schedule is posted and it goes all the way out to the end of the year. So
you can check that out while you're there. Become a supporter of the program through Patreon. You can find a link on the page, and you can also check out our merch stores, the young YouTubers call it. We have merch on our website. So
it's not swag anymore, it's merch.
Be sure to go. Well, swag is free stuff. You've always gotten that wrong. You've always gotten that wrong.
Is it?
We have merch on our
merch.
Go to our store and check out the merchandise there. Anything else we need to talk about this week before we close this show?
I don't think so.
If not, if that's going to do it for this week, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.